Capital News tonight. Tanzania enters into agreement to sell 700,000 tons of maize to Zimbabwe. In international, UN Habitat Assembly enters into third day. And in sports, hundreds of fans welcome home 2018-2019 Mainland Premier League champions, Simba. This is Capital News at 9:30. My name is Khadija Zimbwe. First, the national news. Tanzania has entered into an agreement with the government of Zimbabwe to sell its 700,000 tons of maize due to the fact that there is currently lack of maize in that country. This move is also being seen as an opportunity to further develop business ties and expand the scope of cooperation between the two countries. The move to sign the agreement was revealed by President Magufuli on the second day of his tour of Zimbabwe.
To this end, we have agreed to increase trade and promote investment flow between us. We have also agreed to share experience and best practices in the management, exploitation, and utilizations of our natural resources. As you all very well know, our two countries are well blessed with the natural resources. Finally, we have agreed to revive our Joint Permanent Commission to enable us to monitor the implementations of agreed areas of cooperation and to provide a platform for exploring new areas of cooperation. Na huu ndio uwe mwanzo wa biashara kati ya Tanzania na Zimbabwe. Tumekubali kuwauzia Zimbabwe tani 700,000 za mahindi.
Allow me, Your Excellency, from the outset to express our most sincere gratitude to you and the government of Tanzania for your legitimacy and timely donation to our country towards the victims of Cyclone Idai. Your immediate response in the aftermath of that horrendous disaster, which struck parts of our country in March 2019, attests to our Ubuntu as Africans and the close bond between Tanzania and Zimbabwe.
The Minister of Health, Community Development, Gender, Elderly and Children, Ummy Mwalimu, has confirmed that there is a cholera outbreak in Dar es Salaam where 32 people have the disease and are already at a special camp at Amana, Temeke and Mwananyamala hospitals.
There has been an outbreak of cholera, and up to today there are 32 patients. Amana has received 13 patients, Temeke 18 patients, and Mwananyamala 1 patient. What we've realized to be the cause of cholera is drinking contaminated water. There are those who let sewage water to flow with the rainwater. Anyone who is caught doing so will be fined 200,000 shillings. We've had our minister informing the general public that it is free to be tested, yet in various hospitals we've heard that it is very expensive to get tested. So we ask the government to do a follow-up on this and resolve this matter.
The government has reassured members of the parliament on the Rufiji electricity project that is being implemented at River Rufiji that it will not affect the environment and water sources as had been feared.
Specific areas from which the rivers in question originate from is secure. What we've got to do now is to maintain the river sources. Work is done on the river coast to Rufiji. I've been to Stigler's Gorge. There is enough water. This will be exemplary and progressive too. The government has made plans to keep safe the wildlife who will be returned later once the project is completed.
Mchakato mzima wa lile bwao manake viumbe hai vile vinarudishwa.
The Deputy Minister of Energy, Subira Mgalu, when addressing some MPs' questions, especially on gas energy projects being left, said that the government is continuing to implement the project to ensure that the government's plan to ensure there is electricity in 12,268 villages by 2021.
We've not abandoned the use of gas. There is a project to produce 300 megawatts in Mtwara using gas. There is also the Kinyerezi 4 and 6 projects. There are numerous uses for gas, so it is not true that we are neglecting its use.
The police force in Kilimanjaro region has begun an in-depth investigation to discover those involved in the burning of 2 dormitories of Ashira Secondary School, which occurred on May 23rd of this year, causing the destruction of property belonging to 73 students.
It is not possible for the fire to skip some rooms and burn others. So your cooperation will allow us to ascertain who the perpetrator is. We ask for your cooperation. This sort of behavior is appalling. What could have happened if you were not in class when the fire broke out? It is important for our school's curriculum to include a subject on disaster preparedness, so that when a disaster such as this one occurs, then you should know what steps to take. Education, not just in our schools, but the general public on how to act when disaster strikes.
Residents using the Kilambo crossing to go to neighboring Mozambique have asked the government to set a plan to build a bridge on River Ruvuma so as to alleviate the challenges they face when trying to cross, especially when the river has low water levels.
The mode of transport is not up to scratch. We use small vessels up to today, which is very expensive. This is because there is low tide. When the tide is high, we cross over with little difficulty. It costs 4,000 shillings to cross over, which is very expensive. I'm not sure whether tomorrow I will be able to cross over. I've been here for 5 days. I've run out of money for food and fuel. Tanzania and Mozambique should hold discussions on building a bridge.
Prime Minister Kassim Majaliwa has met with cotton stakeholders and insisted that the price of cotton seeds will continue to be 2,200 shillings as set by the government.
I recognize the contribution of stakeholders, particularly buyers of produce in the country, including cotton, as the government works to improve the lives of farmers through their produce, especially on commercial produce. We recognize the contribution of business owners. The Ministry of Agriculture is working on a system to bring together buyers who specialize on commercial produce so that we can discuss on crops that should fetch commercial price. After the start of the season, from what has been beyond our ability, the price on cotton dropped. The price in the world market was also affected by the politics between Asia and the United States. But luckily, at the beginning of this new season, in May, the price has increased.
The Minister of State and the Vice President's Office Environment and Union Matters, January Makamba, has said that all preparations to implement the ban of the use of plastic bags in all areas of the country on June 1st are 100% complete.
Kwa mpaka sasa tunaenda vizuri. Wote nyinyi mtakuwa mashahidi kwamba kuna mwamko mkubwa sana huko mtaani.
I would like to say that so far our plans are going very well. I am pleased to note that there has been a great response from people in various areas of town, and only a few of them are not aware of the ban. I must say that we have already gotten 3 major companies who will take all of the plastic bags which are gathered up and recycle them in order to make water pipes and desks.
3 Chadema members, including former Fourth Phase government minister and Singida North MP Lazaro Nyalandu, who were caught and released after have said that they still do not know why they were arrested, but they have been released on bail by the PCCB. Now, speaking after leaving the police and PCCB officers, Nyalandu said that they have been released on a 5 million shillings bail until Friday, when they report to the police station.
Na hilo ndio swali ambalo mimi pia niliuliza, na hata sasa hivi mimi ningependa kujua.
I would like to say that when we were arrested, we were taken to the PCCB's offices for interrogation. Following the interrogation, we were taken to the police, who, for their part, told us that they were not the ones who had arrested us, but that it was the PCCB who had done so. I would like to say that we have been given bail by both the PCCB and the police.
Residents of Dar es Salaam owning firearms legally who have owned them for a long time without using them have been requested to communicate with the heads of police in their districts so that they can have a time set for them to return on the safe use of the weapons. This was said by the police commander of Dar es Salaam Special Zone ACP Lazaro Mambo Sasa when speaking to religious leaders in Temeke Municipal on safety issues, where he urged them to set up CCTV cameras and inspection points for congregants when they enter mosques or churches.
Kwenye magodown, makanisa na mikusanyiko yoyote ambayo
for warehouses, churches, and any other public place where there is a gathering with an entry point and exit must be protected. How? By making sure anyone coming in is checked. You must not fear to do so. Devise a system to have metal detectors so anyone going in can't go through security. Some people use their own bodies to carry bombs, which is set from far. I've spoken to spiritual leaders to see how they can check their members. If any member refuses, then he has no good intention.
And that is the end of national news. International news follows shortly. And in international news, the United Nations UN Habitat Assembly has entered into its 3rd day in Nairobi, with President Uhuru Kenyatta calling on nations to implement the recommendations of the 2016 Paris Agreement that addresses environmental destruction so as to reduce effects of climate change.
Kenya renews her commitment to the climate change agenda, and we will continue to pursue, together with our colleagues around the globe, to ensure that we have the right environment for our people to live in. I think the second is a new, renewed commitment to our private sector partners, who we have said are essential for us to be able to achieve our objective. And we want to create an environment where you can thrive, where you can invest in an open, transparent Kenyan society, because those are critical ingredients for the partners who we seek in the private sector. There is no way we will be able to achieve our objective of giving adequate, affordable housing to our people as governments alone. We have to partner, we have to join hands together with private sector. Again, as you have said, private sector is cautious. So the first thing we have to be able to do is to create an enabling environment for them to thrive. We need to be able to ensure that the right policies, that the right frameworks are in place to encourage a private sector.
4 people have died and 1 has been injured in an armed attack at Kinama area north of Bujumbura, with police stating that investigations have been initiated to bring those involved with the attack before legal organs.
Something needs to be done to stop these killings, and it should be taken seriously. We're calling on our leaders to increase efforts to combat these brutal killings of innocent people. This was perpetrated by people alleged to be thieves. It was reported that before they started stealing, they killed 4 people. Among those who died include a shop owner, 2 people from security committee, as well as 2 thieves. After they completed the crime, they ran away. Meanwhile, the police force is on a special operation to search for the culprits.
The EU results recently just came in with the 2 biggest voting blocs losing their majority in European Parliament. Capital Television's Vanessa Victor and Deutsche Welle's Thomas Sparrow have more in their special report.
The EU results recently just came in, and they were just as dramatic as expected, with the 2 biggest voting blocs losing their majority in European Parliament. With me again is our Deutsche Welle partner Thomas Sparrow with more on this. Thomas, what exactly were the EU results?
Well, you mentioned one of the key arguments, namely the fact that the big blocks, the big traditional blocks on the centre right and the centre left of the political spectrum, lost support in the European elections, at least in most countries where people voted. And the parties or the blocks that actually got more support were, on the one hand, the Greens. For example, here in Germany, they managed to get a lot of voters who are particularly concerned about climate change and who want politicians to do more about that. And on the other hand, in countries like, for example, Italy or France or the United Kingdom, the voters tended to support, in a majority, parties that are described as Eurosceptic or populist. I was covering, for example, the elections in Italy, and it was absolutely clear there that the winner of the European elections was Matteo Salvini's northern, or the party that he represents, namely the League, and they managed to get in the first position. In the second position, the centre-left Democratic Party, and in the third position, Matteo Salvini's coalition partner in the Italian government, the Five Star Movement. So that just gives you an example of one country where populist forces described as Eurosceptic, actually managed to get in first position in the elections. In other parts of the continent, it was a bit different, where, for example, the Greens managed to have a very good result. That was the case here in Germany. Overall, those 2 big blocs still managed to get most seats, but they lost seats in comparison to the elections of 2014.
So, speaking of these results, now, did they go as speculated, or were there some surprises?
Well, one thing, as I said just now, that was interesting and important was the fact that the big blocs on the centre-left and on the centre-right still managed to come on top, still managed to get the majority of seats, but lost support compared to what they had achieved in 2014. That could mean that the European Parliament would be much more fragmented now in the coming years, instead, or at least as a way different to 2014, where you had those big blocs representing the majority of the population. So that's one key argument and one key aspect that comes as a result of these elections, namely the fragmentation of the European Parliament in the coming years, where you won't only have those 2 big blocs, which again still have the majority of seats, but who have given way to other parties who have also risen. For example, parties coming from the green or the left part of the political spectrum, or from the far right of the political spectrum. At least that's how it's being described.
Now, Thomas, if you look at the bigger picture, what do the results mean for Europe, and then what do they mean for Germany?
Well, for Europe, as I mentioned, the fact that politics will be a bit more fragmented in the European Parliament, that's for sure, and there's already something very interesting happening, namely the search for those people who will have the top jobs in Europe, because it's not only about the Parliament, it's also about finding successors to the EU Commission President or the Foreign Affairs representative or the head of the central bank. So those positions are now being debated and discussed. There's one system called the Spitzenkandidaten system, which essentially says that the lead candidate of the group who had the majority of votes in the European election should lead the European Commission. In this case, it will be Manfred Weber from the center-right bloc. But there are leaders in Europe who are against this system, or who are at least very skeptical of this system, and who have mentioned that there should be a debate that goes beyond simply naming a lead candidate. Emmanuel Macron, the French president, being one of those who has proposed a wider debate, and that has led to other names being discussed. For example, Commissioner Margrethe Vestager from Denmark, or Michel Barnier, the person who has led Brexit negotiations from the EU perspective. They are also being considered for the top job. When you ask specifically for Germany, there has obviously been a debate as to what this means for Germany's ruling coalition. You know that Germany has a coalition between the Conservatives of Angela Merkel and the Social Democrats. Both the Conservatives and the Social Democrats suffered losses here in Germany. In particular, it was a very bad result for the Social Democrats, and that has meant that the pressure has increased within the Social Democrats for them to make a decision that could be, in the most extreme case, to leave the Grand Coalition, which would then make Germany face a very big government crisis. We're still not there. There are still big debates here in Germany as to what all this means, but there's already speculation that this could mean even more problems for Angela Merkel's coalition.
Thank you very much, Thomas, for that insight. I'll talk to you next time.
And that is all for international news. Business news follows shortly after the break. We'll be right back.
Watch Business Edition as we talk to business leaders and experts in sectors that are transforming Tanzania's economy.
To be rich, I have to be a business person.
It's not an easy road at all.
People need to understand. You must quickly think, how cost effective are you going to be?
Business acts as a way in which it can bridge that gap.
Business Edition will keep you informed on latest developments in the financial sector, extractive industry, tourism, agriculture, energy, construction, and so much more. Meet entrepreneurs who create employment opportunities. Watch Business Edition on Friday at 8:15 p.m.
Welcome back, and in business news. Dar es Salaam Commercial Bank DCB has launched a new service known as DCB Lamba Kwanza for customers who are account holders for a specific time that will enable them to invest for up to 2 years and receive 14% interest.
Ya muda maalum DCB Lamba Kwanza ambayo itamwezesha mteja wetu.
This is a special account that will allow our customers to get interest rates at the beginning of the month, even if the customer has joined today. Not only that, customers who will join this special account will be entitled to interest rates of 14%.
Ya mwanzo wa mwezi.
Tanzania Revenue Authority, working with the police force and immigration, have caught 1,006 lots machines used for gambling in Mikocheni and Mbezi Africana Kironga Wima, getting the government over 1.2 billion in revenue.
On 23rd of May, we received information that there were machines hidden in 2 warehouses. We decided to cooperate with the police to investigate, and we discovered that in Mikocheni there was a workshop that was making the machines.
Ambayo ilikuwa ikiunganisha na kutengeneza hizo mashine. Hizi ni mashine mnazoziona.
These machines are illegal, and they have been made below standards and against the rules and regulations. This means that the impact is stealing from people who will play the games by using fake machines.
The private sector is a key to create jobs and livelihoods for Tanzanian youth, and it can also play a vital role in reducing poverty across the country. This was said by the British High Commissioner in Tanzania, Sarah Cook, during a business dialogue between the Tanzanian and UK governments.
Investor in Tanzania. We have a large number of companies working here and investing here in a large range of sectors, including energy, infrastructure, manufacturing, financial services, agriculture, tourism, the list goes on. And British companies have created almost 300,000 jobs over the last 10 to 15 years for Tanzanians here in Tanzania, and we estimate that our companies pay about 5% of all tax revenues. So we're playing an important role in supporting investment, growth and job creation in Tanzania, and it's important that we have a good dialogue, a good partnership with the government to understand how we can tackle some of the challenges that businesses are facing, to improve the business environment, to support not only the current investors, but also to help attract new investors into the country. So today's dialogue is about strong dialogue, about genuine dialogue, to identify concrete actions that we can take forward together to improve the ease of doing business in Tanzania.
And that is the end of business news. Sports news follows shortly.
Hi, my name is Kotaro Tokuda.
What's up? My name is Sean Garnier.
I'm John Barnes from Liverpool Football Club. The hip, hop, a hip, the hip, hip, hop. You don't stop the rockin' to the bang, man. Boogie say up, jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat. Now what you hear?
I'm watching Sports Gazette.
I'm watching Sport Gazette.
And you're watching Sports Gazette
with Sebastian.
With Sebastian. Peace out.
Yes! And you can also watch Sports Gazette for highlights and interviews regarding sports. Do not miss Sports Gazette every Wednesday at 7 p.m. only on Capital Television.
And in sports news tonight, hundreds of Simba fans have welcomed their team as they arrived from Morogoro, where they were crowned the 2018-2019 Mainland Premier League champions.
It is true the depth of the squad was an advantage because we had very close matches. We had international matches, but in the league we also had a lot of matches which were also close. So the depth of the squad, as well as the experience of players we have at Simba, helped a lot.
The league board TPLB has admitted making a mistake with Kagera Sugar results, and so the Kagera team will lay in the playoffs with Stand United officially being eliminated.
The
one who feeds the software is human. And so, when a human makes a mistake, without knowing or in any other way, the standing changes. So we have seen it, and that is why we have said we will take measures, because the first thing is to make sure. We know there's social network, which is the new media. One wants to post fast to be seen as current. We're just insisting that there must be thorough check.
Maurizio Sarri stormed away from Chelsea's training session at the Olympic Stadium on the eve of the Europa League final against Arsenal within an hour of admitting for the first time he is considering his future. Here's more.
Sarri twice flung his baseball cap to the ground in frustration, kicking it across the technical area before departing down the tunnel while the session was still winding up. The tantrum occurred moments after Gonzalo Higuain and David Luiz had been involved in an altercation during a practice match, though the club were quick to deny the incidents were connected. Sarri is understood to have been unhappy that the team's final training session was open to observers as per UEFA's stipulation. There was presumably exasperation too that N'Golo Kante had been limited to around half an hour of gentle running with a physio.
And that sports item ends our news bulletin for tonight. My name is Khadija Zimbwe. Thank you for watching and good night.